Do you want to know if a man truly loves? Then don't look at what he says. Look at what he gives. Because a man can sleep with anyone he wants, but he only gives himself fully to one woman. And that, my friend, is rarer than you think. We live in a time where men say, "I love you," as casually as they say, "good morning," but they vanish at the first sign of emotional depth. Many want a woman's body, few want her soul, and almost none are prepared to love with presence, with strength, with truth. That's the difference between a man who desires and a man who loves. Desire is loud, impatient, anxious. Love is calm, courageous, and deep. Desire feeds off absence. Love feeds off choice. And that choice is made in silence when a man lowers his guard, faces his own fears, and reveals who he truly is. How many times have you heard that a real man doesn't cry, doesn't get attached, doesn't show emotion, that he has to be tough, invulnerable, indifferent? Well, those ideas produced a generation of performative, needy, and worse, empty men. Men who got used to living on the surface of relationships without even realizing they were missing life's most sublime opportunity to love for real. And when a man truly loves, something inside him changes. Something deep, irreversible. It's not weakness, it's clarity. He understands that real love isn't a loss of freedom, it's a conscious choice to give himself wholly. And that, my friends, is not for everyone. Because to love like that takes more courage than any war. In this video, we're going to talk about 5 things a man does only for the woman he truly loves. But don't expect clichés or feel-good phrases. What you'll hear here is raw, real, and maybe uncomfortable. Because true love is also that. An unsettling mirror that shows you who you really are. Are you ready? Then let's go. A man who truly loves does something rare in modern times. He allows himself to be seen. But not as the invincible hero, the confident conqueror, the unbeatable provider. He allows himself to be seen as he is, afraid, uncertain, carrying old wounds that still ache in silence. And this is where one of the greatest acts of love begins, the surrender of vulnerability. But be careful, we're not talking about that trendy, performative vulnerability made for social media. We're talking about the real kind, the kind that isn't pretty, doesn't get likes, but is deeply human. Only a man who truly loves has the courage to appear fragile without losing his dignity. He doesn't pretend to be unshakable. He's not afraid to say, "I don't know," or "that hurts," because he understands that love doesn't demand perfection, only presence. Most men were taught to hide the pain, the confusion, the exhaustion, the fear of failure. They built emotional armor so heavy, they forgot what it feels like to breathe without it. But a man in love, truly in love, starts, little by little, to take off that armor. Not because the woman demands it, but because he wants to be whole. And to be whole means showing yourself completely. Light and shadow, strength and weakness, faith and doubt. This surrender is terrifying, because the world taught him that exposing himself like this is dangerous, a sign of weakness. But here's the turning point. He doesn't do it out of neediness. He does it out of trust. He trusts that this woman won't use it against him. He trusts he won't be diminished for bearing his soul, and that trust is the sacred ground where true love grows. It's not about revealing everything or opening every secret file of the soul. It's about not needing to fake it anymore. It's about being able to say, "This is me." No act, no script, no armor. And if you think that's weakness, think again. Because only a man deeply strong can allow himself to be fragile. We live in an age where running away has become the norm. One disagreement, one discomfort, one unmet expectation, and poof, people vanish. It's the famous ghosting, the sudden disappearance that replaced the courage to talk, to resolve, to grow together. But a man who truly loves doesn't run, he stays. And let's be clear, this is not about tolerating abuse or staying in toxic relationships. This is about mature presence. Staying even when the initial magic fades. Staying even when the other shows imperfections. Staying when the relationship requires real effort. True love doesn't prove itself in easy days. It proves itself in the moments when running would be easier, simpler, more tempting, and yet he chooses to stay because he knows love isn't just about emotion. It's about commitment. It's about walking through cloudy days with the same resolve he celebrated the sunny ones. It's knowing that every woman, no matter how enchanting, has fears, shadows, traumas, and storms. And that every relationship, no matter how beautiful, will go through fatigue, friction, and misalignment. But a man who truly loves, he's not afraid of that, because he's already made peace with life's imperfections. He knows there is no perfect relationship, and that's why he doesn't quit at the first sign of trouble. On the contrary, he faces it, he listens, he offers, he rebuilds. That choice to stay, that is one of the noblest forms of love, because it requires a man to overcome his pride, his instinct for self-protection, his hunger for quick fixes. And that's rare in a world addicted to the disposable. Loving, truly, is having the emotional maturity to walk through the dry deserts of a relationship with patience and loyalty, to know that leaving is easy, but staying, that's for the brave. There is a subtle but vital difference between lowering your guard to connect and erasing yourself to please. The man who loves truly knows that difference, and he lives it with integrity. In a real relationship, disagreements will happen, and in those moments, it's easy to fall into yelling, punishing silence, or emotional withdrawal. But the man who truly loves chooses the harder path, the path of dialogue. He lets his guard down, not to surrender like a prisoner of someone else's will, but to build bridges. He listens before reacting. He speaks his truth without manipulation, without dramatics, without placing the blame on her shoulders. Because he knows when a man truly loves, he doesn't want to win, he wants to resolve. He doesn't turn disagreement into a battle, he turns tension into understanding. And that takes a level of self-awareness few men have, because few are willing to look inward with honesty. That's when true love reveals itself, when the ego steps aside so that the connection can speak louder, when pride is replaced by humility, when the desire to be right is overcome by the desire to preserve the bond. But make no mistake, this isn't about passivity. A man who truly loves doesn't erase himself. He maintains his limits, his values, his essence. He doesn't cave just to avoid conflict. He engages in dialogue to find solutions, because love doesn't demand submission. It demands presence. It demands the willingness to sit at the table, even on hard days, and say with kindness and firmness, "Let's talk." Not to fight, but to understand each other. That is one of the most beautiful forms of love, and perhaps one of the most forgotten. There's a depth in silence that only those who truly love can dwell in. A man who truly loves doesn't feel the need to fill every moment with words or gestures. He's learned that silence is not absence, it's amplified presence. It's that sacred space where the connection speaks louder than any well-crafted sentence. It's in the silence that he says, "I'm here." Most men were taught to be action, solve, fix, prove. But the man who truly loves understands that sometimes the greatest gesture is simply to stay, to be there, to listen without rushing, to breathe together, to feel together. In a noisy world, shared, silence becomes a luxury, a pause, a home. He doesn't fear the quiet moments with the woman he loves. On the contrary, he treasures them, because he knows it's there, without masks, without performance, that the bond deepens. He doesn't feel the need to impress, to entertain, to force intimacy. When a man can share silence with a woman without discomfort, it means he has already overcome the anxiety of needing validation. He is whole, and because of that, he can simply be. That kind of presence is rare and profoundly powerful, because it says, "I don't need to be anything other than who I am, and I accept that you are enough as you are." In true silence, love matures. In a world where many confuse love with possession, a man who truly loves understands the real essence of protection. He doesn't need to dominate to feel secure, nor control to feel loved. He protects because it's in his nature to care for what is valuable to him, but he does so with respect, with boundaries, with awareness. Protection, in this context, isn't surveillance. It's not about setting rules or making decisions for her. It's about being attentive. It's about offering safety. It's about creating an environment where she can flourish without fear. This kind of man doesn't compete with her freedom. He encourages it. He isn't threatened by her autonomy, her strength, her dreams. On the contrary, he wants to see her grow, shine, expand. Because he knows love doesn't diminish anyone, it multiplies. His protection is firm, but never suffocating, quiet, but always present. It's the simple act of walking on the outside of the sidewalk. The watchful eyes when she's distracted. The strength to defend and the gentleness to comfort. The man who truly loves becomes a shield without becoming a cage. He offers a shoulder without demanding dependency. He steps in front during danger, but walks beside her through life. And most importantly, he protects the relationship itself. He nurtures trust, communication, and respect because he understands to protect the woman he loves. Above all, to protect the bond between them. This kind of love is rare because it takes balance, it takes wisdom, it takes strength and tenderness in just the right measure. But when it exists, it changes everything around it. We've reached the end of this journey. But what was said here isn't just about love. It's about identity, about maturity, about the courage to be whole in a world that trains us to be well-polished halves. A man who truly loves lowers his guard, but never his courage. He chooses to stay when it's easier to leave. He disarms to connect, not to submit. He shares silence without needing to fill the void, and he protects without needing to control. These gestures, no matter how simple they seem, reveal a man who is awake, clear, and free. A man who doesn't love out of need, but out of choice. Who doesn't seek completion in another, but communion. Who doesn't hide behind masks, but shows up fully, even if afraid. And here comes a harsh truth. Not every woman is ready for this kind of man. And that's okay, because the man who truly loves doesn't beg for space. He offers love, and if it's not valued, he leaves, in silence, with dignity, not out of pride, but out of integrity. If you saw yourself in these words, then you already know. To love truly is not weakness. It is the highest form of strength, and it's not for everyone. It's for the whole. If this video moved you in any way, if it said what you've always felt but never knew how to express, like it, share it, and subscribe to the channel. Here, we don't offer easy answers. We spark deep questions, because in the end, the only love worth having is the one that transforms us. See you in the next video.